think you're special medical priority? I've been standing here for 40 minutes while you just roll right through. Please, please don't touch that bag. Those are my daughter's dialysis supplies. She needs...
A woman destroyed a child's essential dialysis supplies at airport security. When the family received medical priority boarding, Karen raised her voice, grabbed the medical bag, and watched as medicines spilled across the airport floor. She did not realize that her actions would have lasting consequences for herself, this family, and many others. Before you watch this incredible story, comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Also, hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing true stories. The harsh fluorescent lights at Denver International Airport buzzed overhead as Sarah Thompson checked her watch for the third time in just 5 minutes. It was 6:45 in the morning, and their flight to Boston would begin boarding in only 40 minutes. They still had to clear security, and with medical equipment, that process could take unpredictable amounts of time. Sarah looked down at her 8-year-old daughter Emma, who sat quietly in her wheelchair with her small hands folded carefully in her lap. At such a young age, this little girl had already endured more pain and suffering than most adults would face in an entire lifetime. "Mom, I'm okay," Emma said softly, noticing the worried expression etched on her mother's face. "We have plenty of time." Sarah forced herself to smile and squeezed her daughter's thin shoulder gently. The large medical bag hanging from the back of Emma's wheelchair contained absolutely everything they would need for the next 3 critical days: dialysis supplies, essential medications, sterile solution bags, and emergency equipment. Emma had complete kidney failure, and these supplies weren't optional or negotiable. They were literally her lifeline to survival. Sarah and Emma joined the security line, and Sarah began carefully organizing their mountain of documentation. She had Emma's detailed medical letter from her nephrologist, the TSA notification form she had meticulously filed 3 weeks ago, and Emma's official disability card. Sarah had been through this stressful process dozens of times before, but her hands still trembled slightly each time. You never quite knew which TSA agent you would encounter, which ones truly understood medical necessity, and which ones viewed it as nothing more than an inconvenience to their routine. The security line moved forward at an agonizingly slow pace. Families with restless small children shuffled along. Business travelers tapped impatiently on their smartphones, checking the time repeatedly. And then Sarah heard a voice that could cut through solid steel. "Excuse me, I have been standing in this line for 15 minutes already." Sarah turned to see a woman in her mid-50s, a designer handbag prominently displayed on her arm, pushing rudely past an elderly couple who'd been waiting patiently. The woman's blonde hair was pulled back so tight, it seemed to physically lift her eyebrows. Her thin lips were pressed into an angry line of pure fury. "Ma'am, please wait your turn like everyone else," a TSA agent said calmly, trying to maintain order. "Do you have any idea who I am?" the woman snapped viciously. "My husband is a very successful lawyer. I have an extremely important meeting in Boston, and I absolutely will not miss my flight because you people can't organize a simple security line properly." Sarah exchanged knowing glances with the man standing behind her in line, who rolled his eyes sympathetically. Emma tugged gently on her mother's sleeve. "Mom, that lady seems really angry," Emma whispered. "Some people forget their manners when they travel, sweetheart," Sarah whispered back, trying to shield her daughter from the negativity. The line moved forward again, and they were finally next at the checkpoint. Sarah approached the podium with their boarding passes and identification ready. "Good morning," the TSA agent said warmly, his kind eyes immediately noticing Emma's wheelchair. "Traveling with medical equipment today?" "Yes, sir. My daughter has kidney failure. She requires daily dialysis treatments. I have all the required documentation right here." "That won't be necessary, ma'am," the agent interrupted kindly. "I can see the medical flag on your reservation in our system. We'll get you through our medical priority line. Just head to that designated area on the right." Relief washed over Sarah like a wave. The medical priority line was significantly shorter and staffed by specially trained agents who understood how to handle delicate medical equipment properly. "Thank you so much," Sarah said gratefully, and began wheeling Emma toward the designated medical area. Wait, just a minute. That sharp, angry voice cut through the air again. Sarah turned to see the upset woman moving toward them. What the woman did next was deeply troubling, causing shock among those who witnessed it. Please stay with me, as what happened afterward demonstrates that actions can sometimes lead to unexpected consequences. Sarah turned to find the angry woman marching aggressively toward them, her expensive heels clicking against the tile floor like gunshots echoing through the terminal. Why do they get to skip the entire line? She demanded loudly, pointing an accusing finger directly at Sarah and Emma. I've been waiting here forever. This is completely unacceptable. The TSA agent who had helped them stepped forward professionally. Ma'am, this is a medical priority accommodation for passengers with documented medical needs. I don't care what you call it. The woman shrieked, her voice rising to an ear-piercing level. I have priority too. I'm a first-class passenger. My ticket cost more than most people make in a week. That's a different type of priority, ma'am, the agent explained patiently. Medical needs take precedence over seating class for security purposes. This is discrimination. Her face had turned an alarming shade of red, veins visible in her neck. You're letting them cut in line because of some wheelchair sympathy card. My time is just as valuable as anyone else's. Sarah felt Emma physically shrink down in her wheelchair, trying to make herself smaller and less visible. This little girl, who had endured years of excruciating pain, countless surgeries, and endless treatments with remarkable grace and courage, was now the target of this stranger's unhinged rage. Something fierce and protective ignited deep in Sarah's chest. Excuse me, Sarah said, her voice steady but cold as ice. My daughter has complete kidney failure. These medical supplies keep her alive every single day. We're not cutting any line. We have a legitimate medical priority. The woman's eyes narrowed dangerously as she looked at Emma with obvious contempt, then back at Sarah with pure hatred. Sure you do. Everyone has a sob story these days to get special treatment. You're probably just trying to get through security faster like everyone else. She actually used her perfectly manicured fingers to make mocking air quotes around the words medical priority. Before Sarah could even respond to this cruel accusation, the woman reached out aggressively and grabbed the handle of Emma's medical bag with both hands. Let me see what's supposedly so important in here that you get to skip ahead of everyone else. Don't touch that. Sarah lunged forward desperately, but the woman had already yanked the bag completely off the wheelchair with violent force. The zipper, which Sarah hadn't fully closed in her rush to get through the airport on time, gave way instantly. Medical supplies were scattered dramatically across the airport floor in every direction. Sterile dialysis solution bags, specialized medical tubes, syringes, irreplaceable medication vials, everything Emma needed to survive. No, Emma cried out in genuine terror, understanding immediately what this meant. Sarah dropped to her knees on the dirty airport floor, frantically gathering the scattered supplies with shaking hands. The dialysis solution bags were the most critical each. One had to remain completely sterile, according to strict medical protocols. If they touched the airport floor, they became contaminated, unusable, and potentially dangerous, and they desperately needed every single one for the trip. Ma'am, you need to step back right now. A TSA supervisor had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, his voice commanding and authoritative. Step away from this family immediately. I was just checking what was inside, the woman started to say defensively, but her voice had lost its confident edge. You physically assaulted a minor child's medical equipment, the supervisor said coldly, his face showing barely controlled anger. Step back now, or you will be detained by airport security. The woman's face went deathly white, then flushed bright red again. Assaulted. I barely even touched. You grabbed life-saving medical supplies from a disabled child, the supervisor interrupted firmly. Step back immediately. Sarah was still on the floor, desperately checking each bag with growing horror. Her heart sank like a stone. 3 of the 4 essential dialysis solution bags had broken seals from hitting the floor. The airport floor wasn't sterile. These couldn't be used for Emma's treatments. One bag had actually cracked on impact and was slowly leaking precious solution onto the dirty tile. Emma needs these supplies, Sarah said, her voice breaking with desperation. She needs dialysis treatment every single day without fail. I don't have any extras with us. Emma was crying, now silent tears running down her pale cheeks. She knew exactly what this meant. She understood better than any 8-year-old child should ever have to understand. The TSA supervisor knelt beside Sarah on the floor, his expression shifting to deep concern. How many bags are compromised and unusable? All but one, Sarah said, feeling panic rising in her throat. I need at least 3 bags for the next 3 days of treatment. I have 2. ... Double quotes, her mind raced frantically. I have to call her doctor right now. Maybe they can somehow arrange for emergency supplies to be waiting in Boston when we land. Ma'am, we'll hold your flight, the supervisor said firmly, making an immediate decision. Don't worry about that. Let's get you to a private screening room where we can figure this out properly. He turned to another agent, standing nearby. Detain that passenger immediately. Call airport security and notify the airline about this incident. What? Detain me? The woman's voice rose to a shriek. For what, exactly? Interference with critical medical equipment, assault on a minor, and causing a serious public disturbance, the supervisor listed methodically. You're not flying anywhere today, ma'am. This is absolutely outrageous. My lawyer husband will represent you in court. I'm quite sure. The supervisor cut her off. Officers, please take her. 2 security officers appeared and escorted the screaming woman away. Sarah barely registered what was happening. Her entire focus was on MON, the scattered supplies, on the fact that her daughter's carefully planned treatment schedule was now in serious jeopardy. What happened in that private security room over the next 30 minutes would determine whether Emma could make her life or death appointment in Boston. But what the TSA supervisor did next restored Sarah's faith in humanity, and this Christmas season reminds us that good people really do exist. The TSA supervisor, whose name tag identified him as Marcus Wheeler, helped Sarah carefully gather every piece of scattered equipment. They were escorted to a private screening room, small windowless office with harsh fluorescent lighting and a basic desk. Another TSA agent brought them bottles of water. Emma's tears had stopped, but her small face remained deathly pale. Does it hurt? Emma asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. When the bags break like that, what do you mean, honey? Sarah asked, kneeling beside the wheelchair. Does it hurt your heart? Like it hurts me when I can't do dialysis on time and I get really sick. Sarah pulled her daughter close, fighting desperately against her own tears. Yeah, baby, it hurts my heart just as much as yours. Marcus had been making urgent phone calls, his expression growing increasingly serious. He hung up and turned to face them. I've contacted several major hospitals in the Boston area, he explained. Unfortunately, dialysis supplies aren't something they can simply give out to anyone who asks. There are insurance requirements, prescription protocols, and authorization procedures. Sarah's heart sank even further. Your best option is to return home to Denver and reschedule your trip for another time, Marcus continued reluctantly. We can arrange that if needed. We can't go home, Sarah said, her voice hollow and defeated. Emma's being evaluated for a kidney transplant at Boston Children's Hospital. This appointment took 6 months to schedule 6 months of waiting. If we miss it, we go all the way back to the bottom of the waiting list. We could wait another year or more. Marcus's professional expression softened noticeably. Let me make one more call. Give me just a few minutes. He stepped outside the small room. Through the glass window, Sarah could see other TSA agents efficiently processing the steady stream of passengers. Their flight would begin boarding very soon, without them. Emma leaned heavily against her mother's side. Mom, I'm sorry this happened. Sorry. Sarah looked at her daughter in shock. Sweetheart, this isn't your fault at all. If I weren't sick, Emma said softly, her voice filled with the weight of guilt no child should carry, that lady wouldn't have been so mean to us. We wouldn't have medical supplies that people can grab. We'd be normal, like everyone else. Sarah's heart absolutely shattered. She tilted Emma's face up gently to look directly into her eyes. Emma Marie Thompson, you listen to me very carefully, Sarah said firmly. You are not responsible for being sick. You are not responsible for needing medicine to survive. And you are the strongest, bravest, most incredible person I have ever known in my life. That woman was cruel because she's a cruel person deep inside. That has absolutely nothing to do with you or your medical condition. Emma nodded slowly, but Sarah could still see the doubt lingering in her daughter's eyes. This was what hurt most about Emma's kidney failure, not just the constant physical pain, but the way it made this beautiful child feel different, less than like a burden on the world. Marcus came back into the room, and Sarah could see something had changed in his expression. Okay, I think I have a solution, he said. I called the airline's medical emergency hotline. They're holding your flight. It won't leave without you, I promise. I also contacted Denver Health Medical Center directly. They're willing to provide emergency dialysis supplies, but you'll need your doctor to call in the prescription immediately, and you'll need to pay out of pocket since insurance won't cover emergency replacements. How much will it cost? Sarah asked, afraid of the answer. About $800. Sarah swallowed hard. That was nearly all the money she had carefully saved for this entire trip, money for food, transportation, and emergencies. But what choice did she possibly have? I'll pay it, she said without hesitation. Where do I need to go? They're sending someone here directly to us with the supplies, Marcus explained. Should take about 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Their flight was supposed to board in 15 minutes. But Marcus had arranged to hold it. They still had a chance to make Emma's appointment. Marcus pulled up a chair and sat down across from them. I'm truly sorry this happened to you both. That woman will absolutely face serious charges. We take interference with medical equipment extremely seriously, especially when it involves children. Will we have to testify in court? Sarah asked worriedly. Probably not, Marcus assured her. We have everything on our security cameras, her grabbing the bag, the supplies falling, all of it. Plus, we have dozens of witnesses. The airline is also permanently banning her from flying with them. She's looking at heavy fines, possible jail time, and definitely a lawsuit from the airline for the costs of holding the flight and the disruption she caused. Good, Emma said quietly. Both Marcus and Sarah looked at her in surprise. Emma usually never said anything negative about anyone, no matter how they treated her. She was really mean, Emma continued. She should learn to be nice to people. Marcus smiled warmly at her. You're absolutely right, young lady. She definitely should learn that lesson. The minutes ticked by slowly. Marcus stayed with them the entire time, making sure they had everything they needed. He called the gate personally several times to update them on the situation. At one point, another kind TSA agent brought in snacks specifically for Emma. We deal with medical situations fairly often, Marcus explained to Sarah, but it's extremely rare to see someone deliberately interfere with medical equipment, as that woman did. Most people are understanding when they learn about medical priorities. They get it. Not her, Sarah said bitterly. People like her go through their entire lives thinking their convenience matters more than other people's actual survival. Today, she learned very differently, Marcus said firmly. Finally, a woman in medical scrubs arrived, carrying a sealed package. Sarah's hands shook as she verified the contents for sterile dialysis solution bags, exactly what Emma needed. Your doctor already called in the prescription authorization, the woman explained. Everything's been approved. You just need to sign this form and provide payment. Sarah handed over her credit card, wincing internally at the cost, but knowing it didn't matter. Emma would get her dialysis treatments. She would make her transplant evaluation appointment. That was all that truly mattered. They had exactly 15 minutes to board. Marcus personally escorted them back through security, bypassing every single line. He carried their luggage himself, while Sarah pushed Emma's wheelchair. At the gate, the entire flight crew was waiting for them. We're so incredibly sorry about what happened, the gate agent said sincerely. We've upgraded you both to first class, at no charge, and please know that the passenger who caused this incident has been permanently banned from our airline. First class, the very section that horrible woman had been so proud of, so entitled about. Now, Sarah and Emma would be sitting there, and that woman would be in an airport security office facing criminal charges. They boarded that plane not knowing that this terrible experience would eventually transform into something beautiful. What happened over the next few months would prove that sometimes our worst moments create the most powerful change. Sarah and Emma boarded the plane last, after every other passenger was already seated. As they walked down the jetway, toward the aircraft, Emma looked up at her mother with those wise old soul eyes. "Mom?" "Yeah, honey. Sometimes bad things happen," Emma said thoughtfully. "But then good people make it better afterward." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. "That's exactly right, sweetheart. That's exactly right." They settled into the spacious first-class seats. The flight attendants fussed over them kindly, bringing extra pillows and soft blankets for Emma. As the plane finally pushed back from the gate, Sarah allowed herself to breathe properly for the first time in hours. They had made it. Despite everything, they had made it. The flight to Boston was blessedly smooth. Emma slept most of the way, completely exhausted from the morning's stress and trauma. Sarah couldn't sleep at all. She kept replaying that woman's face in her mind, the shock and disbelief, when security led her away. Her expression of outrage, that there were actually real consequences for her cruel actions. When they landed in Boston, there was a wheelchair waiting at the gate, arranged by the airline without Sarah even having to ask. They had also arranged for their luggage to be brought directly to them. No waiting at baggage claim. No additional stress. That evening, in their hotel room, Sarah helped Emma with her dialysis treatment. The emergency supplies from Denver worked perfectly, as the machine hummed steadily, filtering Emma's blood and keeping her alive. Emma looked at her mother. "Are you still mad at that lady?" she asked. "At the woman from the airport?" "Yes, sweetheart. I'll probably always be angry about how she treated you. But we're okay now," Emma pointed out simply. "We got here. We have the medicine. We're okay. We're okay," Sarah agreed quietly. "Then maybe being mad doesn't really help anymore," Emma said, with the profound wisdom that sick children sometimes develop. Sarah studied her daughter, this little girl who had been through so much suffering. Emma was right, as she so often was. Anger wouldn't change what had happened, but maybe, just maybe, that woman would think twice before treating someone else with such cruelty. 3 days later, they had Emma's evaluation at Boston Children's Hospital. The specialist doctors were genuinely impressed with Emma's resilience and immediately placed her on the active transplant list. It was the best news they'd received in years. Real hope for the first time. As they flew home in first class again, courtesy of the airline, Emma drew pictures contentedly in her notebook. Sarah checked her email and found a message from Marcus, the TSA supervisor who had helped them. "Dear Ms. Thompson, I wanted to follow up on the incident at Denver International Airport. The passenger who interfered with your daughter's medical supplies has been formally charged with assault and interference with medical equipment. She pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. Her sentence includes 200 hours of community service at a children's hospital, a $5,000 fine, permanent bans from 3 major airlines, and mandatory anger management classes. The airline has also asked me to inform you that they're refunding your entire trip cost, flights, hotel, everything. They're including a travel voucher for your next trip as well. More importantly, this incident prompted a complete review of our medical equipment handling procedures. We're implementing new training for all TSA agents nationwide on protecting medical supplies and better supporting passengers with medical needs. Your daughter's experience will help countless other families. I hope Emma's evaluation went well. She's a remarkable young lady. Best regards, Marcus Wheeler." Sarah read the email twice, then showed it to Emma. "That means the lady has to work at a hospital with sick kids?" Emma asked. "Yes, for 200 hours. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Maybe she'll learn that kids with medical stuff aren't scary or bad. Maybe she'll learn to be nice. Maybe she will, Sarah said softly. 6 months passed. Emma got the call they'd been praying for. They'd found a kidney match. The transplant was scheduled for the following week. The night before surgery, as Sarah tucked Emma into her hospital bed, Emma said something unexpected. "Mom, do you remember that mean lady from the airport?" "I do remember her. I forgave her today," Emma said simply. Sarah blinked in surprise. "You did?" "Yeah, she was really mean, but holding on to being mad just makes my heart tired. I need all my energy for tomorrow's surgery. This child, this incredible, wise, beautiful child. You're braver than I am," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "No," Emma said firmly. "You taught me how to be brave. You taught me that even when people are mean, you keep being kind. Even when things are hard, you keep trying. Even when you're scared, you keep going forward." The surgery was successful beyond their wildest hopes. Emma's new kidney worked beautifully. 3 weeks later, she came home free from dialysis for the first time in 4 years. They were unpacking Emma's hospital belongings when they found a letter that had been delivered to the nurses' station. The return address was from a law office. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. "Dear Emma and Ms. Thompson, you don't know me, but I'm the woman from the airport, the one who knocked over your medical supplies. I've been ordered by the court not to contact you directly, but I've been given permission to write this letter through my attorney. I spent 200 hours working at Children's Hospital Colorado as part of my sentence. I met dozens of kids like Emma, brave children fighting every day just to do things other kids take for granted. I watched parents like you work 2 jobs to afford medications. I saw families sleeping in hospital chairs because they couldn't afford hotels. I was cruel to you that day. I was selfish, thoughtless, and entitled. I treated your daughter's life-threatening medical needs like an inconvenience to my schedule. The truth is, I've spent most of my life thinking my problems were bigger and more important than everyone else's. I was wrong. Working at the hospital changed me fundamentally. I can't undo what I did, but I want you to know that I'm different now. I volunteer at the hospital still, even though my court-ordered hours are complete. I read 2 kids during their treatments. I raise money for families who can't afford their medical bills. I advocate for better airline policies for medical passengers. I hope Emma is healthy. I hope her transplant evaluation went well. I hope she never has to face someone like I was that day. I'm truly, deeply sorry." Karen Mitchell. Emma read the letter quietly. Then she did something that made Sarah burst into tears. She took out her crayons and drew a picture, a stick figure girl with a smile standing next to a hospital building. At the bottom, she wrote in her careful child's handwriting, "Thank you for learning to be nice. I hope you find happiness. Love, Emma." She asked her mother to mail it. 2 years passed, and what happened next proves that this Christmas season, redemption and forgiveness can create miracles that change hundreds of lives. Stay with me for the ending that will restore your faith in humanity. 2 years have passed since that terrible morning at Denver International Airport. Emma's kidney transplant had been successful beyond anyone's wildest dreams. She was now in 5th grade, playing soccer with her friends and taking piano lessons. She still had regular medical checkups and took anti-rejection medications daily, but she was living a full, beautiful, normal childhood. Last week, Sarah and Emma flew to California for their first real family vacation in years. As they went through security at Denver International Airport, Sarah noticed something new, a prominent sign at the medical priority lane. Medical priority lane. Patients with medical needs have priority access. Interference with medical equipment is a federal offense. Kindness costs nothing. Please be patient. Marcus Wheeler was working security that day. He saw them, and his face lit up with a broad smile. "Emma, look at you." Emma beamed with pride. "I got a new kidney, Mr. Marcus. I don't need dialysis anymore." "That's the best news I've heard all week," Marcus said warmly. As they prepared to go through the screening, a businessman tried to cut in line. Marcus stepped forward immediately. "Sir, this is the medical priority lane. I know, but I'm running late for my flight." "Then you should have arrived at the airport earlier," Marcus said firmly, but kindly. This young lady and others in this line have medical needs that supersede scheduling convenience. Please return to the regular line. The man looked embarrassed, but complied without argument. Emma watched the exchange, and then looked up at Marcus with admiration. You're still protecting people? Every single day, Marcus promised. Every single day. 6 months later, Sarah and Emma attended the first annual fundraiser for something called Emma's Kindness Project. Karen Mitchell stood at the podium, telling her story, the full, unvarnished truth about the day she had grabbed a sick child's medical supplies because she couldn't be bothered to wait in line. I was the absolute worst version of myself that day, Karen said to the room full of donors and supporters. I saw a child in a wheelchair and felt inconvenienced. I saw medical equipment and felt annoyed. I saw a mother trying to protect her daughter and felt entitled to my anger. She paused, and everyone could see tears forming in her eyes. That day cost me $5,000 in fines, my airline status, 200 hours of my time, and my pride. But you know what it gave me? Purpose, perspective, and the chance to meet the most remarkable child I've ever known. She gestured to where Emma and Sarah sat in the front row. Emma Thompson forgave me when she had every right to hate me. She showed me kindness when I showed her cruelty. She taught me that who we are in our worst moments doesn't have to define us forever, but only if we're willing to learn, to change, and to be better. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. Emma squeezed her mother's hand. Karen continued, this foundation has now helped 127 families afford critical medical travel. We've worked with airlines to improve medical priority processing nationwide. We've trained over 500 TSA agents in proper medical equipment handling, and we're just getting started. After the event, Karen approached them nervously. Emma, I never properly apologized to you directly. I'm sorry for scaring you. I'm sorry for being cruel. I'm sorry for making you feel like your medical needs were an inconvenience. Emma stood up from her chair, no wheelchair. Annie Moran did something that made everyone around them tear up. She hugged Karen. You learned to be nice, Emma said simply. That's what matters most. Karen actually sobbed. This woman who had been so hard, so entitled, so cruel, was brought to tears by the forgiveness of a 10-year-old girl. How did you forgive me? Karen asked, through her tears. Emma pulled back and looked at her seriously. Because holding on to being mad makes you tired. And because everybody deserves a chance to be better. You took your chance. You became better. That makes me happy. Today, 3 years after that terrible morning at Denver International Airport, Emma is thriving. Her kidney function remains perfect. She's in 7th grade, on the honor roll, and teaching piano to younger kids. She still volunteers regularly with Emma's Kindness Project, speaking at events about forgiveness and second chances. Karen Mitchell is genuinely a different person. She's humble where she was arrogant, patient where she was demanding, and kind where she was cruel. Her foundation has helped over 300 families and counting. She's become one of Sarah and Emma's closest family friends. Last week, Emma came home from school with an assignment. Write about a time when something bad turned into something good. She wrote about the day at the airport, about fear and anger, about cruelty and kindness, about justice and forgiveness. She wrote about how the worst moment of her life became the catalyst for real change, not just in Karen's life, but in the lives of hundreds of families who now receive help with medical travel expenses. Her teacher gave her an A+. But more importantly, she shared the essay with the entire class. Emma's classmates learned that revenge doesn't have to mean destruction. Sometimes the best revenge is transformation, yours, or someone else's, because in the end, that's what this remarkable story is truly about. Not about a cruel woman who got what she deserved. Not about a sick child who was victimized. It's about what happens when hurt meets healing, when cruelty faces compassion, when the worst of humanity encounters the very best of it. The TSA gave Sarah and Emma medical priority that day at the airport. But Emma gave Karen something far more valuable, the priority to change, to grow, to become the person she was always meant to be. And maybe that's the real point of this story. Maybe the best kind of justice isn't punishment at all. Maybe it's redemption. Maybe it's the chance to be better than your worst moment. Karen Mitchell took that chance. She seized it with both hands and never let go. And Emma-wise, compassionate, Emma taught everyone that children often understand forgiveness better than adults do. They haven't yet learned to nurse grudges or hold tightly to anger. They know instinctively what adults forget, that everyone carries struggles. Everyone makes mistakes, and everyone deserves the chance to do better. That day at the airport could have destroyed them, the loss of medical supplies, the trauma, the fear. Instead, it became the day that changed everything. The day that proved that, even in our darkest moments, light can break through. The day that showed us that sometimes the people who hurt us most can become the ones who teach us the most about grace. Emma still keeps that original drawing she made, the one Karen kept on her refrigerator for so long. Underneath it, she's written in careful letters, "Everyone deserves the chance to learn to be nice." Simple words, profound truth. This Christmas season, as we reflect on this incredible journey, we're reminded that sometimes the best revenge isn't punishment, it's transformation. It's giving someone the chance to become better. It's choosing forgiveness over bitterness. It's believing in someone's capacity to change. Karen's payment for what she did wasn't suffering, it was becoming a better person. It was helping hundreds of families. It was learning that kindness costs nothing but means absolutely everything. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply being the reason someone chooses to be better. And Emma Brave, beautiful, forgiving Emma gave that precious gift to a stranger who didn't deserve it. That's the real story. Not about a Karen at an airport, but about an Emma who changed the world one act of forgiveness at a time. Merry Christmas to everyone watching. May you find the courage to forgive, the strength to transform, and the wisdom to know that our worst moments don't have to define us forever.